What if you woke up tomorrow and realized that life has no grand plan, no divine purpose, no cosmic meaning waiting to be discovered? Just existence, raw and silent, staring back at you. Most people would panic. Albert Camus smiled. This is the story of a man who looked into the void and refused to blink, who faced life's biggest question. Not, what's the meaning of life? But, is life worth living at all? And answered with his whole being, yes. Absolutely, yes. Albert Camus entered the world in 1913 in French Algeria. His world was split from day one, rich and poor, French and Arab, beautiful and brutal. His father died in World War I when Albert was barely a year old. His mother was deaf and could barely read. They lived in poverty in the working-class neighborhoods of Algiers. But here's what's remarkable. Even as a child, Camus noticed everything. The blazing Mediterranean sun, the silence in his home, the injustice in the streets, the beauty mixed with the pain. This wasn't just a kid growing up hard. This was a future philosopher learning his first lesson. Life is gorgeous and terrible at the same time. And somehow, that contradiction makes it more precious, not less. As a young man, Camus was brilliant. He could have had any academic career he wanted. Then tuberculosis hit. Suddenly, he couldn't breathe properly. His body betrayed him. His plans crumbled. But sickness did something unexpected. It forced him into solitude. And in that quiet space, away from society's noise, Camus started seeing clearly. He looked around and saw institutions preaching justice while practicing cruelty. Leaders promising salvation while ignoring suffering. People going through the motions of life without really living. Most people would become bitter. Camus became more alive. He realized that if life was short and fragile, every moment mattered more, not less. Then came World War II. Europe exploded. Fascism spread like a disease. Camus didn't just watch. He joined the French resistance. He edited an underground newspaper called Combat. His pen became his weapon. But here's what made Camus different from other war writers. He didn't just fight the enemy outside. He fought the enemy inside. The temptation to become indifferent, to stop caring, to look away. For Camus, resistance wasn't just political. It was moral. Every person, he believed, has a choice. Stay asleep or wake up. Look away or pay attention. Give up or keep fighting. He chose to fight. Not with anger, but with love. Love for human dignity. Love for truth. Love for life itself. After the war, Camus wrote novels that shook the world. The most famous was The Stranger. The story follows a man named Meursault who doesn't cry at his mother's funeral. Society condemns him for it. But Camus asks, is he evil or just honest? What if we're all strangers to ourselves? What if we spend so much time pretending to feel what we're supposed to feel that we forget what we actually feel? Camus wasn't judging anyone. He was holding up a mirror. And people didn't always like what they saw. But that mirror was necessary. Because you can't live authentically until you see yourself clearly. Camus' most famous idea came in an essay called The Myth of Sisyphus. It's about a Greek king condemned by the gods to push a boulder up a mountain for eternity. Every time he reaches the top, the boulder rolls back down. Most people see this as pure torture. Camus saw something else. He imagined Sisyphus happy. Why? Because Sisyphus owns his fate. He can't control the punishment, but he can control his response. He can push that boulder with dignity, with purpose, with joy even. We're all Sisyphus, Camus said. Life gives us tasks that seem pointless, jobs that drain us, problems that never end, routines that repeat endlessly. But we can choose our attitude. We can rebel against meaninglessness by creating meaning. We can push our boulder with love. For Camus, rebellion wasn't about violence or revolution. It was about something quieter and more powerful, refusing to give up on humanity. Even when the world seems cruel, we can choose kindness. Even when life seems pointless, we can create purpose. Even when everything falls apart, we can hold ourselves together. This isn't naive optimism. It's conscious defiance. It's saying, I know life is hard, and I'm going to live it beautifully anyway. That's rebellion. Not the loud kind, the persistent kind. The kind that wakes up every morning and chooses love over cynicism, hope over despair, engagement over indifference. Camus' philosophy put him at odds with other intellectuals of his time, especially Jean-Paul Sartre. At first, they were allies. Both were trying to make sense of a world shattered by war. But Sartre embraced revolutionary politics. He believed you had to choose sides, break a few eggs to make an omelet, sacrifice individuals for the greater good. Camus refused. He'd seen too much violence justified by noble causes. He'd watched too many revolutions eat their own children. I choose mercy over justice, he wrote, the individual over the cause. This cost him friendships, made him enemies. But Camus didn't care. He wouldn't betray his core belief. Every human life is sacred. Period. Camus didn't believe in God, but he lived like someone who did. He believed in moral responsibility, in treating others with dignity, in fighting for justice. How do you stay moral without religion? How do you find meaning without divine purpose? Camus' answer was simple. You choose to. Not because someone commands it, not because you'll be rewarded, but because it's the right thing to do. This made his ethics more beautiful, not less. When you choose goodness freely, without coercion or bribery, it becomes pure. It becomes yours. In 1960, at the height of his fame, Camus died in a car crash. He was 40. In his coat pocket, they found an unused train ticket. He'd almost taken the train that day instead. The irony was perfect and terrible. The man who wrote about life's randomness died randomly. The philosopher of the absurd died absurdly. But his death didn't silence his ideas. If anything, it amplified them. Because it proved his point. Life is fragile and unpredictable. That's exactly why it's precious. Camus wasn't interested in saints or superheroes. He was moved by ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Teachers who actually teach. Doctors who actually heal. Friends who actually listen. In his novel, The Plague, a city is overtaken by disease. The real heroes aren't the famous people. They're the citizens who quietly choose to help. Not for glory, not for reward, but because helping is what humans do. That's the kind of heroism Camus believed in. The quiet kind, the consistent kind, the kind that doesn't need applause because it has something better, integrity. Here's something people often miss about Camus. He loved beauty, not as an escape from reality, but as a form of resistance to despair. The light on a wall, a friend's laughter, a swim in the Mediterranean. Music, art, love. These weren't distractions from life's meaninglessness. They were proof that meaninglessness didn't matter. Because if you can be moved by beauty, if you can feel joy, if you can love, then you're already living meaningfully. Camus said yes to the sea, to friendship, to laughter. Not in ignorance of life's hardships, but in full awareness of them. That's courage. That's rebellion. That's freedom. Real freedom, according to Camus, isn't doing whatever you want. It's choosing to do what's right even when no one's watching. It's choosing clarity over convenience, truth over comfort, presence over performance. Freedom begins when you stop running from responsibility and start embracing it. When you stop waiting for permission to live authentically and just start living. This kind of freedom is available to everyone. You don't need money or power or status. You just need courage. The courage to be yourself, to care about others, to show up fully to your own life. How do you begin living like Camus? Start with honesty. Not just honesty with others, but with yourself. Ask yourself, what do I actually believe? What am I pretending not to know? What masks am I wearing? What roles am I performing? Strip all that away. Get down to what's real, what's true, what matters. It might hurt. Honesty usually does. But it's the only foundation solid enough to build a life on. We live in strange times. We're more connected than ever, yet more lonely. We have access to all information, yet less wisdom. We have more choices, yet less direction. The absurd hasn't disappeared. It's gone digital. Camus would recognize our world. The endless scrolling, the packaged meaning, the 5-step programs to find your purpose, the algorithms telling us who to be. He'd raise an eyebrow at all of it. Meaning can't be downloaded. Purpose can't be purchased. These things have to be wrestled with. Earned. Created from within. Camus once wrote, "In the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer." That sentence holds everything. It acknowledges the darkness, the winter of despair, confusion, loss. But it also recognizes something indestructible within us, the capacity to find warmth even in the cold. Despair and hope aren't opposites. They're partners. To feel despair means you're awake to reality. To find hope within that despair means you're alive to possibility. That's the invincible summer. It's not naive optimism. It's mature resilience. It's the part of you that refuses to break, no matter what. What would it mean to live like Camus in the 21st century? It means looking our current crises square in the face. Climate change, political division, social media addiction, economic inequality, and still choosing engagement over retreat. It means not numbing out, not checking out, not becoming indifferent. Instead, it means choosing care, choosing clarity, planting your feet in the absurd and still building a life you believe in. Because if nothing matters inherently, then everything we choose to do matters even more. This isn't easy. Camus never said it would be, but he believed it was possible. Not to find meaning once and for all, but to keep choosing it. To live as if the world could be better, even if we never see it. To be kind, not because it changes everything, but because it changes us. That's Camus' legacy. Not certainty, not salvation, but courage, humility, and a fierce, unwavering love for life, even when it makes no sense. For Camus, loving life wasn't about optimism. It was about engagement. It wasn't pretending things were better than they are. It was facing things exactly as they are and choosing to love anyway. Choosing to create, to nurture beauty, to act with tenderness in a violent world. That's what he meant by revolt. Not picking up arms, but refusing to go numb. Refusing to betray the moment. And in doing that, we keep something sacred alive. There's something almost spiritual in Camus' philosophy, even though he wasn't religious. His mysticism was earthbound. It was in the warmth of coffee on a cold morning, in the silence shared between friends, in the quiet dignity of those who keep showing up. He believed in the holiness of attention, of presence, of remaining fully awake in a world that constantly begs us to check out. That's a kind of prayer, paying attention, being present, showing up fully to whatever is in front of you. Camus didn't believe in an eternal soul, but he did believe you could build one, breath by breath, choice by choice, in how you decide to live. Your soul isn't something you're born with. It's something you construct through kindness, through courage, through the small acts of decency that no one applauds. Every moment of awareness, every choice for truth, every act of love. These build your soul slowly, stubbornly, beautifully. Here's the paradox Camus lived inside. A man who wrote about despair with such hope. A man who named the absurd and then dared to dance anyway. He didn't ask us to be heroes. He asked us to be honest, to feel it all, to face the world unshielded and still smile, still swim in the sea, still write, still love. That paradox isn't a flaw. It's the most human thing about him, and perhaps the most hopeful. So what do we take from Camus? What do we carry forward? We take the courage to say, yes, life is absurd, and yes, I will live it anyway. We take the commitment to care, even when it hurts. We take permission to feel despair, and still move forward, to cry and still create, to doubt and still choose decency. That's not weakness. That's not naivety. That's resistance. That's what Camus gave us. Not a way out, but a way through. If Camus could walk through war and loss and disillusionment and still find reasons to keep writing, keep caring, keep living, then maybe so can we. Maybe we don't need to have it all figured out to show up fully. Maybe meaning isn't found, but forged. Maybe revolt isn't noise, but stillness. And maybe life isn't something we're given. It's something we create, every day, with every choice, in the face of silence. The question isn't, what would Camus do? The question is, what will you do, knowing what you know now? Will you numb out or show up? Will you retreat into cynicism, or will you rebel by choosing care? Will you wait for meaning to be delivered to you, or will you get your hands dirty and build it? Start there. Not because it will fix the world, but because it might save your soul. And if this message moves you, don't let it end here. Let it shape how you see your morning commute, your next conversation, your own breath. Let it soften you. Let it strengthen you, because Camus didn't write for himself. He wrote for us. And now, it's our turn to answer. Not with words, with how we choose to live.